Hello, my name is Silas. I'm a 6th-year PhD student at UIUC. Today I have prepared a talk on my experiment with choice in video ad placement. The major point behind this experiment, however, is not about advertising, but it's about how we give users control. Control is a cornerstone of user interface design principles. For instance, one often cited and long-standing guideline from Ben Schneiderman says to keep users in control. And more recently, control has become an important subject in AI design guidelines. Major justifications behind such guidelines include 1. The fact that automation and algorithms sometimes get it wrong, and 2. Users deserve autonomy, especially when automation imposes decisions on users. Just one example of when such dignitary concerns arise is when algorithms decide what news, posts, and ads that we see online. But just because control is important doesn't mean that we should be giving users as much direct control as possible, or that they want direct control. To give you an instructive example, imagine that your car broke down. Hiring a mechanic gives up direct control over repairs, but many people want it that way. You can gain a lot of time. You don't have to learn how to fix the car, nor do it yourself. Patty Mays summed up this principle by saying, users must be able to turn over control of tasks to computers, but users must never feel out of control. But exactly how much direct control versus automation has been a matter of debate. If you shouldn't be giving people as much control as possible, then how much should we be giving, and in what situations? In this study, I aim to provide empirical evidence that can inform this debate. We asked, when users get control, do they become more satisfied because after they use the controls, they've adjusted the system to behave better for them, or because they were offered the control? Notably, despite the abundance of experiments that test designs which give users more control, experiments seldom separate these two. But you can gain a lot by separating the two. If the behavior of the software matters a lot, then if you already know what users want, then you don't need to give them control. Just give them what they want. On the other hand, if users highly value the offer of control and choice, then we should be offering users more control and choices. To separate system behavior and the offer of control, I conducted an experiment with video ad placement. In this experiment, participants were randomly assigned to one of 3 groups. The first group got an ad before a video, a pre-roll ad. The second group got an ad in the middle of a video, a mid-roll ad. And the third group got a choice between the two. This setup had several advantages. First, video advertising is very popular. For instance, YouTube is one of the most popular websites on the planet. Second, no one to our knowledge has experimented with user control over ad placement before. And third, and most importantly, there's only 2 system behaviors, the pre-roll ad and the mid-roll ad. And that can help us cleanly estimate the effect of ad placement separated from the choice over it. To conduct the study, we needed a video and an ad for everybody to watch. We performed a process to select an interesting video and an uninteresting ad. This was to represent the typical recreational video watching experience. We ended up selecting a video about continents and an ad from hotels.com. Below, I have plotted the distributions of participants' interest ratings in the video and ad, and distributions concentrated more to the right indicate higher levels of interest. Indeed, our participants were overall interested in the continents video and not really interested in the hotels.com ad. Armed with the video and ad, we were ready to run the experiment. Using flyers and our institution's newsletter, we recruited 45 participants for in-person interviews. Our sample represents a wide variety of ages and races. Our sample does skew young, however. Just to add a little bit of context to our age distribution, 82% of our sample is born after 1980, but around 51% of YouTube users are born after 1980. In any case, we assigned these participants randomly to our 3 conditions. I made a YouTube web extension to inject the ad that matched YouTube style. It was also responsible for the choice interface, a screenshot of which I display here. This choice appeared at the beginning of the video and people had to choose before continuing. If you cannot read the screenshot, it says, choose your ad experience with 2 buttons below it. The first button says, see ad now. An ad will play before the video. The second button says, see ad later. An ad will play at some point in the middle of the video. After participants were done watching the video, I gave people a short survey and interview. I surveyed 2 measures of user experience, which were satisfaction and feelings of control. In practice, our findings for both of these measures are very similar, so I will only be discussing satisfaction today. I looked at one measure of advertising effectiveness, which was liking towards Hotels.com. For the sake of time, I will skip that for today, but do look at the paper if you're interested. And lastly, I asked participants for their reactions to the choice, if they got one, that is. And I asked everybody about their thoughts if the choice in the study became normalized. So what did we find? First, let's talk about the effect of ad placement. To do this, I compared outcomes between those that got a pre-roll ad and those that got a mid-roll ad. Here are the satisfaction ratings in each of these 2 groups. Distributions more concentrated to the right side indicate higher levels of satisfaction. And unsurprisingly, people were less satisfied if there was an ad in the middle of the video, and the decrease in the number of people rating a 4 is noticeable. The difference in the ratings is not considered statistically significant due to multiple hypothesis testing correction, but the interview data aligns with the survey data, so we're reasonably sure there's an effect happening here. For instance, people that got the ad before the video said things like, the ad didn't interrupt the video, it was before, so that's nice. On the other hand, if you got interrupted in the middle, people said things like, I didn't give the most positive rating because the ad was in the middle. So that's the effect of ad placement, but what about the effect of choice? Well, when it came down to it, 13 out of 15 people chose to have the pre-roll ad. We actually expected this to happen. And because it did happen, we were able to efficiently estimate the effect of choice by comparing people in the pre-roll condition to those in the choice condition. In effect, most everybody in both of these groups experienced a pre-roll ad, and the key difference is whether you got a choice in the matter or not. It turns out that choice slightly reduces satisfaction ratings. Once again, this difference is not statistically significant, but a number of interview themes correspond with the trend. First, many people gave positive feedback to the choice, but at the same time emphasized preventing interruptions, such as, the choice is a good idea because I don't like when ads interrupt. If not being interrupted is the key thing that people are looking for, then it's not surprising that satisfaction levels among those that got a choice are similar to those that just got an ad at the beginning. Another noticeable theme was that participants expressed feelings of helplessness, such as, oh, there's no way to avoid the ad. I think this indicates that the choice that we gave people wasn't really the choice that people actually wanted, which is the option to not have an ad at all. And lastly, some people said things like, oh, it doesn't matter to me either way, whether I got an ad at the beginning or an ad in the middle. For these types of people, then it's effectively choosing between 2 things that don't matter to you either way, and it just gets in your way and wastes your time. So these themes can all explain why choice could slightly reduce satisfaction. So previously, I was discussing those that chose the pre-roll ad. What about the 2 participants that chose the mid-roll ad? Both of them said something along the lines of, let me just watch the ad in the middle when I'm invested. In other words, they first wanted to screen the content to know if it's worth watching. Interestingly, one liked their decision and the other one regretted their decision. In addition to that, participants named hypothetical reasons they would want a mid-roll ad. For instance, people wanted perhaps a bathroom break during a movie, or another person said, when I'm cooking and I need instant advice, they would prefer the mid-roll ad. Lastly, While I got a lot of positive feedback about the choice, I also noticed some pushback. A number of people said that the choice wasn't the choice that they wanted, because an ad is still an ad. And some participants said that they wouldn't want to decide ad placement every time they started a video. So overall, what do our results mean? To recap, we found that ad placement affected satisfaction more than choice over ad placement. As we discussed the implications of this finding, it's useful to keep some limitations in mind. First, I phrased the main finding as a comparison, and not that choice had no effect at all. That's because due to our sample size, we cannot rule out small effects of choice, either positive or negative. Second, our experiment tested a specific choice architecture, that is, the forced choice before a video, and a specific advertising context, that is, it was an uninteresting ad paired with a short interesting video, and there was no ad skipping. But despite the limitations, we still feel comfortable discussing a number of implications. For one, our results indicate that forced choice is likely not the ideal way to give people control over ad timing. Not only was there a relatively small effect of choice in our experiment, but also a number of participants said they didn't want to always be asked about where to put an ad. Second, our results highlight a number of reasons that people prefer mid-roll ads. This stands in contrast to the bulk of literature saying that mid-roll ads are bad for the user experience. Video platforms looking to optimally placed ads may want to keep this in mind. But what about our original problem of when to give users more direct control? In our study, direct control did not lead to a large satisfaction boost, but that was under the specific conditions of the study. Namely, our study 1 gave people a forced choice, second, gave people a low-stakes decision that automation could reasonably and accurately do, and third, the choice didn't give participants side benefits. For instance, one side benefit that prior work has identified is system transparency. Participants given control over the content of a news feed had fewer privacy concerns, presumably because they could better understand how their feed was personalized. We didn't see any indications of such side benefits in our study. Therefore, in the future, researchers might want to experiment with varying the above factors. Another future direction is moving outcome measures beyond satisfaction. For instance, it's maybe possible that greater levels of control could lead to greater perceptions of usefulness. We didn't address effects like this in this study. But in summary, in this study, we found that ad placement had a larger effect than choice over ad placement, but more work is needed for how and when user control leads to better system design. In conclusion, I hope that this study has given you some useful nuance to the advice of user control being a good thing, and I hope that it helps you think deeper about how and when we should implement user-facing controls. Some quick acknowledgements. Thank you to Capital One and Just Infrastructures at UIUC for funding this research. A big thanks to our participants, and thank you to my research group, Social Spaces, for all the feedback on this research. And thank you for listening.